Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there. Hello everyone, this is Alonzo. Want to know how to get your first cloud job? Then please register for our webinar. We'll teach you everything that you need to know and answer your questions along the way. Hope to see you there.
My name is Richard Ferrer, and I can say I am cloud hired.
That yes, come and join and get cloud hired. I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
Hey, Go Cloud Architect family, I'm cloud hired.
So I'm cloud hired, guys.
So I'll just say I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired.
I'm cloud hired thanks to Go Cloud Architects.
It worked for me, and now I'm cloud hired.
Because of Google Architect program, I am cloud hired. See!
I am cloud hired. Thank you, Mike and the Glow Cloud team.
Hi, welcome everybody to another cloud career question and answer session from us at Glow Cloud Careers. My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Chief Operating Officer. I'm joined today by Mike Gibbs, our founder and CEO, and Alonzo Coleman, our Chief Marketing Officer. So we're here to answer all of your cloud career questions, cloud training questions. So if you've got questions about the cloud architect job, the cloud engineer job, or any cloud career, or any cloud training, if you don't know where to start with your cloud architect training or your cloud engineer training, or if you're just new to the cloud, we're here to answer any of your questions. If you've been working in tech for years and want to learn how to take that to the cloud, we're here to answer those questions. So anything cloud career related, we are here. We are on YouTube. We are on LinkedIn. We are on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We are on Twitch all right now. So I know I've already seen a question come in from LinkedIn. I'm going to ask that you, Jude, if you could give us a follow-up response to that, just a little bit more information, but we'll go ahead and start answering that question here in just a second. But if you can give us any little bit of more information about you and yourself and kind of what your desires are, we'll get to that question in just a second. But if you can provide us anything else about what your desires are, it'll help us out when we get to that question. So before I ask Mike and Alonzo to start talking, and before we get to the questions, I want to make sure that everybody is aware of a couple of things. So we are starting our brand new Elite Cloud Architect training next week. This is going to be a limited enrollment. There's only a few spots left. We're only taking 10, and there's only a few spots left for this. We're going to have a webinar, information webinar, this Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, so that you can learn all about this and ask any questions that you might have and get those last few spots and start this journey towards that Elite Cloud Architect career. So make sure to join us on that webinar. It's completely free. We're going to explain everything that's included in this high-touch executive-style training program. And again, like I said, answer any questions that you might have so that we can get you to your goals as quickly as possible. So make sure you join us for that. Again, that's this Thursday, the 13th, July 13th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Mike, myself, and Alonzo will be there to make sure you understand everything about this exciting program. Again, only a few spots left, and we'll be starting that next week. So I'm really looking forward to that and look forward to answering any and all of your questions. Next, if you're interested in becoming a cloud architect, if you're interested in getting that first cloud architect job or that first solutions architect job, get our free ebook. It's a guide, free guide for you to tell you how to go about getting that first cloud architect job, how to go about getting that first solutions architect job. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of information from people that haven't successfully had the career as a cloud architect that's out there. That's not what this guide is. This guide is based off of years of experience, decades of experience. Sorry to age us there a little bit, but decades of experience helping countless people reach that goal of getting their first cloud architect job or that first solution architect job, that first network architect job, that first enterprise architect job. We've helped so many people, and this is the basis of that. We put it all in a neat, concise, pretty ebook there for you so that you can get that and hopefully get to your goal a little bit faster. So make sure you get your copy of that. It's completely free. Put a lot of work into that, a lot of heart into that. So we want to make sure that you get that information and take advantage of it. So Tyrone has put links to both of those, the webinar and the guide, in the chat box there. So I'm going to put these links over on LinkedIn. And while I'm doing that, I'll let Mike and Alonzo say a few words, and then we'll get into these questions.
So it's Mike Gibbs. I'm the CEO of Go Cloud Careers, and I've been in this tech industry now, wow, over 25 years. And trust me, I've loved every moment of it. Ever since I left internal medicine as a nurse practitioner for tech, it's like I never worked a day in my life. And for more than 2 decades, I've helped people get their first tech job, get promoted in tech, get a $100,000 plus raise, negotiate different amounts of stock grants and stock options. And I love it. And almost every day at this point, someone says, Mike, I'm cloud hired. And that's why we do what we do. The key to building your career is to know exactly what the job is that you want, know exactly what the managers that are doing the hiring are actually looking for, and then building the plan to have exactly the skills the hiring manager cares about. Not what your certification provider tells you about, not what somebody else who's looking to get a job that hasn't been hired says. The management, the people that actually do the hiring. We've interviewed thousands of managers over the years, thousands of C-level executives, thousands of technology professionals. There's over 6,000 interviews. And I can tell you exactly how to get any job you want. And it doesn't matter your background. You could be like Noah, our student who was a social worker who's now working as a cloud architect. You could be like Pierre D over in Canada who's now working as a cloud architect, never worked in tech before. You can be like Delroy, who was an EMT on ambulance, who's now a cloud security architect. You can be like Vladimir, who was 24 years old, who's now working as a cloud architect. Or Jeffrey West, for example, who was a geologist that's now working as a cloud architect. Or Romanek over at AWS, who was actually working as a waiter, who's now a cloud architect. Or you could be people like Pratapal, who had 30 years engineering experience that wanted to become an architect. And engineering and architecture are about as similar as a cat and a dog. They both have fur, they both have 4 legs, but otherwise they're completely different. So let us help you build your career. Ask any questions you want, and I will do anything I can to assist you. And over to you, Alonso.
I couldn't have said it any better, Mike and Chris. One of the things that I've come across, and when I speak to prospective clients, is if they need a prerequisite. No, all you need is a desire to learn, a strong internet connection, and the ability to want to be the best cloud architect you can be. We've seen so many people transition into careers of success based off of the competency that we teach, the experience, the ability to speak on a professional level with C-suite and be able to convince and get them to understand the benefits of business transformative architecture. So any of these questions you have, if you've ever thought about being a cloud architect, if you want to be one, but don't know where to start, you are in the right place. We definitely recommend anyone that you know who wants to be a cloud architect as well and want to transition to join us on a regular weekly basis so that they can get the best they can, the most resources, the most informative ways to become a cloud architect here, excuse me, at Go Cloud Careers.
Sorry about that, Alonso. I forgot to put you up on the big screen while you were talking.
No problem.
I'm trying to do. I got too many comments coming in from different directions. I had to play around. So let's get to these questions here. First question is from over on LinkedIn, and this is for Jude. Jude says, I'm a desk side support technician and I have my cloud practitioner certification. What will be the steps to take to be an architect on AWS and be cloud hired?
Okay, LinkedIn user, thanks for reaching out. Let's talk about what the architect's job is first. And the first thing I'm going to say, it's not covered in any of the AWS certifications. But Jude, I'm going to help you. So I want you to understand, what do we do as architects? Organizations hire us to design a solution to improve a customer's business performance. And when we work at AWS or Azure or Google or Microsoft or Deloitte or Accenture or Capgemini or any of the other people that hire cloud architects, what we do is we design, we present, and sell a technology solution. And the whole goal is to improve someone's business performance. We don't configure the technology, we don't build it. That's what the cloud engineers do. So in order to be a working architect, you need both the business and the tech side. This is a 50-50 job. And in order to design things, you first have to understand business. So, if you were to take our Cloud Architect Career Development Training Program, you'll learn business. You could also get an MBA. I just want you to know how to get hired. In order to optimize an organization's business, you must understand business inputs and outputs. So you need to be able to understand a balance sheet. You need to be able to understand a financial statement. You need to know what the CEO cares about, the CIO, the CFO, because you have to find out their needs in order to design an organization's business. So maybe they're looking to increase revenue. And what can you do as a cloud architect to help them so? Maybe they're trying to decrease their operating expenses. Maybe they're in the manufacturing industry and they need a supply chain optimization. What can you do as a cloud architect to help that? So how do you transform that customer's business? So that means you need a good level of business acumen. Now, at the same time, in every real design we do as a cloud architect, especially if it's transformative, we're not going to be able to design it ourselves. There's a great African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So in 90% of the architectures that I've done over the last 25 years, I have to build an architecture team. So for example, if I was going to do a digital transformation, something for a big bank, I'd find an AI architect, I'd find a security architect, I'd find a network architect, I'd find an IAM architect, I'd get the guidance of some maintenance people called sysops people about how to make it easier to maintain for them later. I might bring in some DevOps engineers to talk about some CI/CD pipelines. That's their job, it's not our job. I might even bring some cloud engineers to go really deep. And we're going to write the documents, present it back to the customer, sell it with the account executives. So we need good sales skills, good leadership skills, and extraordinarily good communication skills. Now, once we get past that, we need to learn the network and the data center. Now, why am I not saying cloud? I'm saying the network and the data center. Here's the reasons why. There is no such thing as an AWS-only architecture anymore. That's dead. 98% of all organizations use multi-cloud. 98%. And a lot of people are going from the public cloud to the private cloud because it's substantially cheaper in today's world. But we're going to have hybrid clouds, multi-clouds, hybrid multi-clouds, super clouds. So you have to understand what it is you're moving. And the reason I say network and data center is if you're going to take the stuff from the data center and move it to the cloud, you can't move it if you don't know what it is. So that means you're going to need to learn all the networking and data center technologies, because all the cloud is, get rid of all the silly branding, is somebody else's network and somebody else's data center that you're virtualizing and running your space in. So, if you download that document, I'll tell you all those networking and data center things that you kind of have. And then the cloud. But I want you to think about it this way. If it's a virtual machine, and I'm going to have a really good video to help you guys in your career coming out this week. If it's a virtual machine, it doesn't matter if it's a VMware virtual machine in the data center, an AWS EC2 instance, an Azure virtual machine, an Oracle virtual machine, or a Google Compute Engine instance. It's identical. If you truly understand object storage, then you understand it when you get it from Dell EMC sitting in your data center, which you're going to be using, AWS S3, Azure Blob, Google Cloud Storage, because it's all the same. And then you really need to learn what are the stuffs in your certification to avoid. For example, when you do multi-cloud, pretty much think of any of those AWS fancy branded things, or Azure fancy branded things, or Google fancy branded things. You can't use them. So get rid of your DynamoDB, get rid of your Amazon Aurora, get rid of your ECS, get rid of your AWS WAF. And here's the reason why. In a multi-cloud environment, I can use Oracle in all clouds, an Oracle database. I can use MySQL on all clouds. I can use MongoDB, for example, but I can't use any of that proprietary stuff. So learn the business, learn the elite communication skills, the sales skills, the negotiation skills, the CXO relevancy, the network, data center, and cloud, and you will have a phenomenal career. Now, if you download that free guide, it'll literally give you a list of every single technology you need to learn and every business component you need to learn. And I want you to be super successful in your career. But don't think certifications are going to get you there. And here's the reason. A certification is the name of a service and how to configure that service. Cloud architects don't configure. They don't implement. We design. We design the solution to improve our customers' business performance, which means we need to know about their tech and their business. We present it back to them in a verbal document and a presentation. And on a cloud architect interview, the last phase is presenting to a bunch of clients on an interview panel. So if you don't have the presentation skills, it doesn't matter how good your tech skills are. And then we sell it back and we get commissions based upon our sales. And our managers get commissions based upon our sales. And that's why it doesn't matter how good our tech skills are. If we can't sell, the manager can't hire us, because they get hired or fired based upon how well their team sells the technology. And of course, how well it works in customer service. So those are the skills that you need. Please attend the free webinar and we can come live and have a face-to-face conversation. And I look forward to meeting you. And you also have the book. And if you want more questions or you want me to go deeper on any parts, please let me know. I'd be honored to help you.
All right. I want to encourage everybody to ask your questions. I see we've got, between all the platforms, we've got almost 50 people on here right now. And so far, only 2 questions have been asked. I'm pretty sure we've got a few more questions than 2. Again, these can be cloud career questions. These can be cloud training questions. These can be questions about what specific roles do. What are the requirements of knowledge for specific roles? How do they differ? How are they the same? Anything that you can think of, anything that will be helpful to you in your career. So our next question is from Purnell. Purnell says, what is your thoughts on an AI architect career? And why would you recommend or not recommend this career path?
Pernell, great question, but I think you're mixing up two careers. A cloud architect career, which is a big generalist, and an AI architect career who focuses on AI. Separate them. If I want a real AI architect, I want someone that knows AI, machine learning, and data science concepts. In 50+% of the cases, it's going to be far cheaper for me to call NVIDIA, buy a special server for them than it would be to use any of the cloud providers. And in the other 50%, it makes sense to go to the cloud. So if I limit myself to just cloud, I can't really help the big organizations. You know, if you deal with JP Morgan Chase, they save $2.2 billion a year by building a private cloud and not leveraging the public cloud. If you're only a cloud AI architect, you can't work with JP Morgan Chase. So the point is, you know, keep that in the back of your mind. Now, if you became a cloud AI architect, you divert your focus from AI to cloud, which you need, you basically be bad at both. If you look at Usain Bolt, you know why he's so fast? He runs and he trains running. If you deal with a football player, and they're amazing athletes, you know, you may get a football player to a 4.40, which is, you know, top 1% in the world. It's extremely good. But Usain Bolt can do it in 4.22. And that's why he's the Olympic world record holder and he's the fastest man in the world. Imagine what would happen if you took one of those football players that could run the 4.40 and only trained them to be with Usain Bolt. They might win because they're not dividing their focus. So when it comes to being elite in anything, you have to focus. You know, when I was in high school, I was taking college electronics courses. I just loved electronics and I was in the college class. And, you know, on my second year of high school, I was already in, you know, second year college electronics classes because I loved it so much. And, you know, the professor that was teaching the course, I asked him some questions and he said, Mike, I want to show you something. And he took 2 light bulbs. And he said, this light bulb can cut glass. And this light bulb illuminated the room. And he took one of the light bulbs, he focused it, and it was a laser. And another one was just a standard light bulb. And he said, Mike, if I can give you one secret in life, it's focus. He said, when you can focus like this laser beam, the things that you will achieve will be amazing. So I'm not going to divide my focus ever between 2 things. Pernell, if you want to be an AI architect, awesome. Wouldn't hurt if you had a PhD in advanced mathematics as well if you want to do this career, because all this career is writing algorithms, high-level statistics. So your best data scientists have advanced degrees in mathematics. And then they focus on statistical predictions and algorithms, and it's all kinds of awesome. I love AI. I also love the cloud. What a way to increase the velocity that organizations can make change and adopt technologies that improve their business processes, adopt technologies that make their business more efficient. I love it both, but it's an either or. Do you want to be a baseball player or a football player? Pick one. If you try to do both, you'll be bad at both. So I love AI architecture careers. I think they're awesome. I also love cloud architect careers, and I get people hired almost every day as one. But I want you to be great, not good at anything. A jack of all trades is a master of none. The Swiss Army knife doesn't do anything well. It may open a beer can if you need it to. It may be able to cut an apple if you need it to. But it's not a knife like a Kabar knife that's big and sharp and strong, because it's doing 10 things mediocre versus one thing well. So pick one, Pernell, and I think they're both great options.
I want to chime in here. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about this. So I feel like this question, a lot of people, I don't know about Pernell, but I feel like this question is going to be coming up a lot lately because you started off this route at the beginning of your response. Because at the end of the day, AI is a tool. Just like everything, just like any architecture is designed to solve a business problem or provide a business solution. So AI is hot and fresh and new and shiny and all this. So I wonder if the question that a lot of people might have is, what about AI in cloud architecture? And I think that answer there is going to be yes. Yes, it's going to be part of architectures. Probably for the rest of forever.
Yes.
So just like so you probably, if we're assuming we're not talking about an AI architect like we are like an application architect.
Yeah.
So let's assume we're not talking about that, and we're just talking about the utilization of AI to solve business problems. Then that is definitely something that I think people they absolutely have to become familiar with, just like security, just like networking. I got a feeling it's going to be just as prevalent and necessary as security and networking is.
Absolutely.
Forward. So if we're not talking about AI architect like we are an application architect or a database architect, if we're talking about AI in architectures, then you need to become extremely familiar with the various AI tools that are out there and available. And if you're in a specific domain, then you need to be aware of what tools are available to assist your customers in that domain and how they would fit into your architectures. Well, what are your thoughts about that, Mike?
100%.
That way, talking
100% true. In fact, in our last class that we had with our students, they're working on a big AI architecture for digital transformation. The key is AI will be part of every architecture, but there's a difference between what an application architect does and what a cloud architect does. And the key is when you are an architect, a generic cloud architect, you have to build the team of experts. And here's the reason why. Someone can pretend they know something by getting 10x AWS certified, and the reality is they don't know anything about anything because they've spread themselves so thin. Or you can have good, strong fundamentals and say, I need AI in this architecture, and bring in an AI architect. I need some data science, bring in a data scientist. I need good security. I'm going to bring in a security architect to help me in my cloud architecture. I need good database work. I'm going to bring in a database person. I've got some big data, bring in a big data architect. And oh, by the way, Purnell, while we're at it, I need to find a good firewall. And the cloud architect's going to be reaching out to Palo Alto and Fortinet and Checkpoint and Cisco to try and deal with that. Because, as cloud architects, it's a lot about stakeholder management and vendor management. So we're always going to be using AI. And every cloud architect is going to need to know that just the way they know security and networking. Yes, but where you focus your time, effort, and love in is what you become good at. When I know $500,000 routing and switching CCIEs, you know what they don't know? They don't know wireless. They don't know voice. They don't know security. They don't know video. They know BGP, ISIS, and MPLS, and OSPF, and nothing else. And that's why they're a $500,000 network engineer or network architect, because they're so good at that, as opposed to spreading themselves so thin. So I'm just saying, pick something you love and master it. Be the best you can at it. Give it your heart, your soul, your love. And then what you can do with yourself is absolutely amazing.
All right. So Al Hader asked if you sorry, I'm laughing at the name. If you have strong communication skills but average cloud and networking skills, can that transcend into a cloud architect job? Absolutely. You want to know what the top 3 things that a hiring manager looks for? It's somebody that they can work with. Point blank, number 1. If I can work with the person, they're already halfway there. The next thing, can I trust them? Boom. All right. The third thing, are they trainable? Are they coachable? If you can get it, so yes, if you've got and communication skills is right underneath all those things. Mm-hmm. So sorry, I get excited by these types of questions.
No, we need that energy. No matter how good you are as a cloud architect, if you're not able to articulate your thought processes, your ability to express things that are great, cohesion, ideation, and all the other things needed to work in a team, then just like networking, if you don't have it, it all falls apart. So that communication is it's sacrosanct. It's a foundational skill set that you have to have. And I love that name, Al Hader.
Yeah, and the key is Usually the less technical person with better business skills and better communication skills and better leadership skills is the person that gets hired. In fact, when you interview somebody and they come in and they talk about the tech, I'm a techie, I'm a techie, I'm a techie. That person can't influence the CEO to spend $1 billion on technology, and they end up being passed on. It doesn't matter how good they are on the tech, they become an engineer versus an architect then. But if you don't truly understand the underlying technology like the network and the data center, you will not be able to design a working architecture. And we see this where we get people that came from a development background. If they don't learn the network, they don't understand why you have to use multi-cloud for availability. And if somebody doesn't understand the network, they don't understand the weaknesses in cloud security. And they don't understand how to build truly high availability platforms. So it doesn't matter where we come from as long as we learn the right skills to be effective, and as long as we also build the right team around us. Al Hader, I'll tell you the actual architecture that built my career. So I had been a network architect for many years. And as a network architect, I designed high availability networks for internet service providers and banks. Really important stuff. And I had gotten hired by Cisco, and I was told that I needed to be the lead architect for the most strategic voice project in all of Cisco. And I said to my manager, I don't know anything about voice. And he's like, but video. I said, video is multicast. This is unicast. Video doesn't have any of these call setup things. Here we've got all these H.3T3 and SIP codes and all those other things. I said, this is somebody else's architecture. And my manager says, I hired you for your lead architecture skills, your communication skills, your executive presence, your team building skills, and your ability to design. Go design it. Now, Al Hader, I learned the best lesson of my life. And this architecture built my career. It got me on stage at Cisco, and received more awards than I can count, and got me so much recognition that I moved into a very elite role after this. I built a team of voice experts. I led the team of voice experts. I took the team to lunches and dinners every day for 6 months. I went to the customer every day and found out their business needs, their business goals, their pain points. I led the team of engineers that built the proof of concept. I lived on the customer site and got feedback every day. And then I closed this deal. And Al Hader, you know what I learned? The tech that I knew the least was the architecture that built my career. Because it forced me, and this is about 20 years ago, not to pretend that I knew everything. It took me out of my comfort zone to the place where I said, now I need my leadership skills. Now, Al Hader, I want to give you a theory, just so you can think about this. Who would you prefer to design a bank's architecture? Let's assume you're the banking CEO. On the left, we have a physician that spent for the last 30 years listening to people's issues, thinking about it and coming up with a solution and a plan, who had a team, this physician with great leadership skills, of 30 people that each have 15 years tech experience each. So 30 times 15 is 450 years experience. The physician knows nothing about tech, but they can put the right people together, listen to them, and help collate the right information and present it back and sell it. Or somebody that's got 10 years experience as an architect and has no leadership skills and try to do it themselves. On the left, we've got an architect with zero experience in tech that has a team of 450 years experience. On the right, we've got somebody with 10 years architecture experience. I'm going to tell you 99.999% of the time, the physician who knows nothing about tech, but has excellent communication skills and excellent logical reasoning and excellent ability to listen to others and communicate it back will have a better design than the techie. So the key is communication skills are critical. And Al Hader, guess what? If you don't have the right communication skills, you know what happens? You get the wrong information. If you have the wrong information, you know what happens? The architecture falls apart. So yes, absolutely. But you'll have to build up your cloud skills, networking skills, business acumen, and leadership skills along the way, unless you have them.
All right. So yeah, just to circle back, that's the surprise information for most people is that the tech skills are in a lot of cases, especially for these architect roles, are these more business executive type roles. The tech skills have a plateau. They have a shelf life essentially. Yes. Of their value. They will increase your potential earnings, but only to a certain point. And then after that, it's all about your soft skills like communication. Sarah T says, where did it go? I missed it. Where did it go? Sarah T asked if we have a download for being a cloud engineer like we do for our cloud architect. We do not, but we do have some videos that we can put some links to for you about the cloud engineer. So sorry, I skipped that one earlier, Sarah.
And that's okay, but let me comment on the cloud engineering one real quickly for Sarah. Sarah, if you're interested in engineering, I want to give you some advice. You can't just be a hands-on techie cloud engineer anymore. And here's the reason why. AI can write a Terraform script. AI can write a Python script. AI can spit out the CLI for anything, and AI can do what a hands-on only cloud engineer can do. And the AI doesn't ask for a pay raise, doesn't get sick, and it'll work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So, Sarah T, if you want to be an engineer, here's the secret, and you'll do well, you'll earn a lot. The first thing is build up your communication skills. The second thing is build up your leadership skills. The third thing is build up your sales skills. Build up your executive presence and your emotional intelligence. And then, Sarah, find some cloud technology that interests you and be better at it than anybody else in the world. And that way, when organizations lay off the engineers, and they're going to be laying off some engineers, you have the skills that are irreplaceable with technology. At Cisco, we used to call these people distinguished engineers. And that's the secret. Business acumen, leadership, sales skills, communication skills, and hands-on engineering skills. Awesome. That's the award-winning combination for the engineer. But don't build a career where you're just a techie that sits behind a desk and codes and configures, because the reality is the tech can do it. You know, I agree with the NVIDIA CEO that says within 5 years we won't need any more programmers. All you'll do is talk to the tech and everybody's a coder. So get out of the 18 million cloud projects that you hear people doing about that don't build any knowledge. Get in, really learn some tech and truly master it. And I don't care what it is. I built a career on BGP. I don't care if it's whatever it is, but find something in cloud engineering that you really want to master, like security or networking. I don't care what it is, something that's passionate to you. You build that plus those leadership skills, and now you're completely irreplaceable by technology. So that's the secret to keeping an engineering career in the world of AI. Architecture careers aren't a problem, because AI will never sell $1 billion solution. AI is not going to entertain your clients. AI is not going to build a team. AI is not going to lead. So architecture careers are completely safe. Engineering careers, make sure you get some of those customer-facing skills.
All right, I like this next question. Collins asked, Mike, where do you see the cloud service providers in the next 10 years, since everyone is finding out that the cloud is more expensive?
Good question.
Good question, Collins. So I don't think the cloud providers are going any way, but let's look at a really quick business analysis I was doing with a student over the weekend. So we were evaluating a customer that needed, it was a small customer that only needed 1,000 servers. And what they needed was 1,000 8-core servers with 64 gigs of DRAM and a 1 terabyte SSD drive with 10,000 IOPS, which is nothing. I mean, it's really nothing. You know, to go to Dell, if you were going to order this stuff on the website, which nobody would actually do, you'd negotiate a deal. But if you did, the servers were basically $320,000, and each one would create 64 of these virtual machines. So if you bought 16 of them, it was about $5 million US dollars for the tech. If you throw in another $1 million of of networking and security gear, you're at $6 million. Now, if you did this with AWS EC2 instances, what you would need is 1,000 R6G 2X large, and with a 1 terabyte EBS VM of 10,000 IOPS, which is nothing, it turns out to be about $38 million for the 5 years versus the $6 million if you were going to do it by building it yourself. Now, sure, if you build it yourself, you might need an extra $1 million or $2 million of staff, and it would be less than 10 million versus 40 million. So now you're looking at some costs that are there. But Collins, that's for this customer. Another customer might be cheaper on the public cloud. Some customers will do better with serverless if they don't use their systems a lot. If they use their systems a lot, it'll be too expensive, and they'll be like Amazon Prime that could save 90% by not using serverless. Here's the thing, Collins, the cloud has agility like nothing else in the world. We can build and spin up a system in seconds. If we have a private cloud where we can put the really high performance thing in a Nutanix environment or an OpenStack cloud environment in our data center, we can burst to multiple clouds. So now we can do what we can do better, faster, and cheaper in the data center and use the cloud for what it's good at, instant, near unlimited scalability. Now, next is, Collins, we're going to be getting into a world of super clouds. Let's face it. Microsoft is by far the most advanced AI cloud in the entire world. And Google would be the second, and the third player would be Amazon. But Amazon kind of has the coolest amount, for example, of infrastructure of any single cloud provider. So we might put some of our infrastructure in AWS, and we might put some of our machine learning, artificial intelligence in Microsoft where they have the edge, and we might use disaster recovery in the Google Cloud. I mean, nobody in their right mind would do disaster recovery to the same cloud. I mean, think about it. It's like backing up your stuff to yourself. It's not a great environment. So I see the super clouds being huge. And, Collins, the reason we've always taught hybrid clouds and we make every single student we have build a cloud is because that way our students know what the cloud is. Also, when someone says, hey, I did a cloud project and configured an S3 bucket, I taught a 6-year-old how to make up an S3 bucket in less than 5 minutes. She was real cute doing it, but nobody's going to get paid $218,000 a year, which is the average cloud architect salary to set up an S3 bucket. But the person that knows how to build the cloud has some real knowledge behind it. And that's what we deal with it. So, and if I can pull up this data that was on my phone from the other day, I'll go over it very quickly. But, that's the key. The cloud's not going anywhere. But we're going to be leveraging the clouds for what they do. We're going to be using more of them. You're going to see more private clouds. You're going to see more multi-cloud environments. Now it's 98% of the people that use multiple clouds. I can't imagine anybody would ever put their things in one cloud. In fact, putting all your things in one cloud is the equivalent of putting all your eggs in one basket, taking your entire retirement income and buying one stock because you think it's cool. It just doesn't make sense. Single cloud is a single point of failure because no matter how many availability zones and regions you use, it shares a common network, which means that network goes down, poof, it's dead. Now, also the control plane of the cloud gets hacked or goes down, it's dead. Organization gets hacked, the single cloud is dead no matter how many regions. So that's what we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, I got a non-technical answer to that. So I think cloud providers are essentially going to become like car manufacturers. They're going to become hotel companies. They're going to become paint stores. They're all the same. Like they're all the same. You go to a Fairfield Inn, it's the same as a Hampton Inn. You go to a Courtyard, it's the same as a Hilton Garden Inn. It's you go to a Holiday Inn Express, it's the same as a Hampton Inn, a Fairfield Inn. You go, they're all the same. It's all the same thing. I mean, a Nissan. Is it Nissan Altima and Honda Accord and Chevy Impala or Chevy Malibu? I can't remember. And then you go with the Ford Expedition, the Chevy Tahoe, the GMC Suburban, the Nissan Pathfinder. They're all the same things. And same with paint stores. Sherwin-Williams has Sherwin-Williams paints, but they can make you Behr's paints if they want to. Behr can make you Sherwin-Williams paints if they want to. You can go into Home Depot and get paints. You can go into Lowe's, you can get paints. You can go into Walmart and get paints. They all have the technology to match all the colors of the paints. I mean, it's all the same. Literally, you can create whatever color you want with any paint company. And even if you create the paint color with Sherwin-Williams, you can take it to any of them and they'll be able to make that paint color once they've got that paint. So I think we're past the bonanza days, the gold rush days. It's going to mature. Things are going to settle down, get less exciting and less wild west and more mature. just like any industry is. At least that's my thoughts. Again, non-technical answer. But I think that's the direction it's going, especially if we're talking about 10 years from now. Because you can, just like I said, just like cars, cars are a dime a dozen. They're all out there.
And it's, like the Who song, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. In
Right.
fact, when I try to get into my black Mercedes, I periodically get into a black Nissan that looks the same thing. And I wonder why my key doesn't work, the key fob. But yeah, when you really strip off the stuff that's taught in the certification, which is the marketing names of things, and you really go back to the old technology, it's the same. All cloud providers are using the same data center gear, the same networking gear, the same security gear, and then their marketing people just make up a new name for it and different pricing strategies for it, but it's all the same. So yes, everything's super cloud, everything's multi-cloud, everything's hybrid multi-cloud. And the people that can make that work for the customers, boy, do they have the best careers.
All right, so our next one is a multi-parter. And I also asked a follow-up question. So, from Elizabeth, I'm working on my bachelor in IT management. I really enjoy it so far as it teaches some fundamentals and a lot of business courses. My ultimate goal is to get a job as a cloud architect or a cloud consultant. My question is, will pursuing the IT management degree give me a disadvantage in the job market? I know the market highly favors computer science degrees. I hope this is the right place to ask the question, and I'm open for advice from all of you. So I asked a follow-up question. I asked her if the IT management degree was from a college or school of business, or if it was from a college or school of science. She clarified that the IT management degree is from the College of Business at Western Governors University. So now we can get into answering that question a little bit. And then, should I switch to an IT degree like a computer science degree to be more competitive and get my foot in the door? So if your goal is to be a cloud architect and your goal is to be a cloud consultant, then business is the way to go. And that's why I asked if it was a college of business degree or a college of sciences degree. And the reason I asked this question is just a quick rundown of WGU's curriculum for IT management. Value-based leadership, organizational behavior, project management, operation and supply chain management, quantitative analysis for business, change management, fundamentals of business, principles of financial and managerial accounting, information technology, management essentials, financial skills for managers, concepts in marketing, sales, and customer contact, principles of economics, business environment applications, business structures and legal environments, logistics and operations, managing in a global environment, and innovative and strategic thinking. I could keep going. It does have the introduction to IT fundamentals, systems management, IT applications, and of course, some of the IT related classes. But compare that to the cloud computing course, the cloud computing bachelor's degree, scripting and automation, scripting and programming, web development foundations, cloud foundations, Internet of Things, networks, network and security, Linux Foundation, managing cloud security, cloud applications, network and security applications, introduction to cryptography, data management, data systems administration, advanced data management, and so on and so forth. Azure fundamentals, cloud computing, capstone, AWS cloud architectures, cloud platform solutions, so on and so forth. So it depends on the career. And since you said cloud architect, cloud consultant, business consultant, the business degree is going to be the route that you need to go. That doesn't mean that you don't need some technical competency. Of course, you'll need some technical competency for what you're wanting to work in, but not those technical competencies that were just listed out in the cloud computing bachelor degree. That cloud computing bachelor degree is probably good for other roles. I myself wouldn't know which ones. That's not my specialty. My specialty is business. So that's my thoughts there. I'd love to hear what Alonzo and Mike have to say about IT management degrees or degrees from College of Businesses versus degrees from College of Sciences and computer science degrees.
Well, I'll kick it off and then Alonzo. I don't like any engineering degrees for architecture because engineering and architecture are completely different. Now, Elizabeth James, if you could just do a straight business degree and get rid of any of those IT courses, I'd be even happier for you. Because what'll happen is in these IT courses, they won't teach you anything that's relevant. And it's a distraction from the other business courses, which I actually think would be helpful to you. So computer science, I wouldn't recommend it for anybody. I'd rather see somebody get good tech training than spend 4 years in school to learn something and then need to be completely retrained. And I've retrained many of those people for those cloud computing programs. They've finished their programs with their bachelor's and master's degrees, and then I've retrained them, and 9 months later after our training, then they got hired. We had to start them from the beginning because you know what they were taught was more engineering versus architecture stuff. So I'd prefer pure business. But if you're 3/4 of the way through an IT management degree and it's coming from the School of Business, I'd finish it. And then I'd consider in the future getting an MBA or taking a leadership course like our tech leadership development course. But architecture is all about business. You know, when I was at Cisco, the enterprise architect, for example, was a grade 13, so it's a director level position. And you know, when you're dealing with enterprise architecture, for example, at Cisco, the average salary of an enterprise architect is $216 to $417 off of Glassdoor right now, and that's in line with what we typically see when we get somebody an enterprise architect job. So, the more business, the better. How about you, Alonzo?
Yeah, you hit so many bullet points off of what I was going to say. Focus on the business with tech. It's when they talk about an IT degree, I'm like, okay, what are they covering? Is it going to be focused on cloud architecture, or is this just some general facet that's really not helping you to propel yourself towards becoming a cloud architect? So the focus would be on business because that technology is going to be used from a business transformative perspective. So it's not about what that technology is or what the functionality is, but how is it going to transform that business? Is it going to increase opportunities for clients or customers to move through the architecture to provide stock options, selling, e-commerce? How is it going to help the business? So looking at it from that perspective is going to be far more valuable than someone showcasing functionality about technology. The CEO we teach, they really don't care about spending any more money, especially multi-million-dollar implementations about cloud architecture. But if that multi-million-dollar return on investment is going to give them back plus an additional amount of money or any type of benefit that may not necessarily be quantitative, then it's going to be a benefit for them. So researching, understanding that business, looking at their financials, their overall business goals and so forth, and learning how to do that is what's going to be beneficial for you in the end.
All right, so we got a question here from Chatini. Hi, Michael. I'm a senior systems administrator on premises. How can I transition my career to the cloud architecture environment and get certified? There are many options available, so how can I choose the best and fastest way to gain?
Okay, so Jantini, I'm going to break it down into two things. How you can get certified, you can get a practice test and within a week pass any certification exam you want and still not know anything about being a cloud architect. Or you could take certification training and you'll still know nothing about being an architect because certification training is teaching you a proprietary name and how to configure. And a sysadmin configures. But guess who doesn't configure? An architect. So what you need to do is follows. First, I want you to download the How to Get Your First Architect Job Guide and attend our free webinar. And we'll really go through it for you and give you a list of the hundreds of things you need to know. So the first thing, there's a couple of things you have to do. One is you have to convince the world that you're not a systems administrator, you're an architect. And here's the thing. Most of us that hire sysadmins, we see them as the techie that sits behind the desk, that installs applications, adds user accounts, those kind of things, patches operating systems. more of a maintenance-y role. Now you're in a role where you're designing, presenting, and selling solutions. So a couple of things. On your resume and LinkedIn profile, you're going to have to tune it to show you're not a sysadmin. So what do I mean by that? If you used to add users and you used to set up IAM roles and service accounts and things like that, that will need to be translated to something more businessy. So I'll give you the software developer version. If a software developer says coded website in Java, that works if they want to be a software developer, but it doesn't work if they want to be an architect. Now, that software engineer that coded the website in Java now needs to translate that for architecture. Design Java-based website, which increased sales by 11%, resulting in $237 million of incremental revenue. Note, we translated the tech to the business because architecture is all about business, business, business. So first, you're going to have to learn how to lead, because in every architecture, you're going to have to get the requirements and build the team to design it. It's not going to be by yourself. The next thing is you have to find out the business requirements. And who really knows the business requirements? The CEO, the COO, the CFO, the CIO. So you need to develop what's called CXO relevancy to know how to relate to these people and ask about their business goals. Next on the list is learning business acumen. Because if you're going to improve an organization's revenue, operational efficiency, etc., you have to know the ways that you can help a business get there. Now then, we have to go from engineering hands-on-y stuff to design stuff. So Jyoti, when we have a building architect that designs a hotel, they don't build it. And here's the reason why. Learning how to use a hammer, nail, or a screwdriver does not teach someone how to design a hotel, and that's why they hire an architect to design it and a construction crew. Hands-on experience does not teach design. If it did, they would take airplane pilots and ask them to design airplanes instead of flying them. So you have to get architecture training, which teaches design. And then you're going to have to make sure that you have a good knowledge of network and data center-y things. And what I mean by that is, in administration, it's how do I do it? How do I install an Apache web server? Is it yum install Apache? Is it yum install HTTPD? That kind of thing for a Linux system, or a sudo apt install HTTPD, or whatever you would do it. I don't do admin work, so I'm an architect. So that's what we would do here. In the architect world, it's how do I design the web environment to improve the customer experience, to increase scales, to scale as necessary. How do I use artificial intelligence to help an airplane or an airline purchase fuel contracts cheaper by making valid predictions to purchase fuel option contracts? That's architecture. So you're going to have to get that businessy, and then you're going to have to learn the underlying technology, how it works. Not how to configure, but how it works, which is a much deeper knowledge. So how do the systems work together? How does this networking thing over here affect the user over here? How does the storage thing affect these servers? How does it all work together? So architecture is big picture. So you're going to have to take the lessons from your past life, which is good. You probably have gained some good lessons. Put them in your back pocket and then start from scratch. For example, I used to be a nurse, and then I learned how to practice medicine. You know what I had to do? Go to school and start over. And here's the reason why. Nursing's about doing the plan. Being an internal medicine person is about designing the plan. And it's a completely different set of skills. So that's how you do it. And it'll take you about a year with really good training to make the transition. And it'll be well worth it. But it's that. It's about going from the doer to the planner. Going from the builder to the designer. And showing the world that you're not a builder, that you are in fact a designer. Great question.
All right. Trying to make sure I stay in order here. So, hello, Michael. I'm a network engineer. I want to add cloud networking to my career because I love hands-on. Please advise, should I consider a cloud architect?
Now, Ade Tsunami, let me ask you the question. What do you love? Now, I will tell you that architecture can pay 2 to 10 times more than engineering over your career. And I will tell you, as an architect, you won't have to get your hands dirty, and you won't have to configure anything anymore. And as an architect, when other engineers are working hard at 2 o'clock in the morning making a change, you'll be having some scotch and some steak with your clients, as opposed to doing that hard work. But if you love being hands-on, you're not going to be hands-on as an architect. And you're not going to be able to be hands-on as an architect. You're going to be designing systems, building systems, you'll be designing systems, leading teams. And here's the reason you won't be allowed to be hands-on. And this is really, really important. Architecture must be big picture. And the second you work on touch any piece of technology, what ultimately happens is you lose your focus of the big picture. So let me give you an example. I have something to show you first from a zoomed in engineer's focus. Tyrone, can you share this part of the screen real quick? Share that image I tried to share. Okay, so right now, what you can see here is outside of my house. You got a squirrel, cute little thing sitting in the green grass. And if you were an engineer and you basically had to work on that squirrel, and engineers have to be zoomed in everything they do, all you can see is that squirrel. And it's necessary for you to be zoomed in like that to do engineering work. Now, architecture by comparison is not about what's going on in front of you. It's about the entire system. So let me show you what happens in the actual big picture version of what I actually just showed you right now. And this is why architects can't really zoom in on anything. Now, in this particular, and it's the same photo. Chris, if you can share this for me. This is the same photo I just zoomed in to show you the first one, the engineer's view, and I zoomed out to show the architect's view. Now, before, you could only see that squirrel and everything looked all kinds of happy. But now you can see my cat, Cindy, who's terrorizing the squirrel, and she's planning her attack of the squirrel. And in that architect, you need to be able to see Cindy over there. But what if there's a pit bull that's behind Cindy? You need to be able to see that to protect Cindy and still figuring out what's in the way of the squirrel. And that's why architects don't touch the technology as a rule. Sure, we write Word documents, we make PowerPoint documents, we make Excel spreadsheets, we do ROI models, but that's generally speaking. So if you really love being hands-on, I don't recommend an architecture career. I recommend staying in your engineering career. If you want to be a business person, if you're looking for more leadership, if you're looking for more career advancement or a higher salary, and you like the concept of talking to people, leading groups, designing and selling things, then you're there. Alonzo, Chris, you have anything to add?
Couldn't agree more. It's interesting. Let's look at the underlining focus on some of this is communication. From a cloud architectural perspective, you're going to be communicating with the human base versus if you're comfortable, you'll be doing that. You'll be working with teams, leading teams, talking with people above and below your pay grade, if you will. So if that's comfortable for you and you love engaging, great. However, if you like to engage with the command line and your language is focused more so on Linux and Terraform's language and so forth, and you like to stay within that sphere of comfort, then I definitely would recommend you maintaining your current career trajectory, because although they both focus on tech, designing for architecture, building for engineering, you have to be comfortable in your space working with your team members, whether that be focused on the client or if you just like to focus on the command line. So think about some of these concepts and some of these considerations when you want to move forward in your career.
Yep. I'm going to circle back to what Mike said. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I mean, if you want to do something, go for it. Whatever that is that you want to do and that you're passionate about is going to make you happy. That's what you should do. So, RCE Goat I'm working in cybersecurity as a vulnerability management, I'm guessing, and I am. How will I transition to a cloud architect role in Azure or AWS?
Okay, first RCE. Get AWS or Azure out of your mind. There's just cloud. 98% of organizations use more than one cloud. And I want you to think about it this way. You have two options. I could teach you how to drive a Honda Civic, and I can make up silly names. This is the elastic rotational vector changer, which turns your car in different directions. Here is the cloud-based ignition starter upper. Here is the cloud-based elastic speeder upper, slower downer. And here's the cloud-based stopper. And if you learned all of that, guess what you would have learned? A bunch of silly names that marketing departments taught you, which is what you learn in a certification, and you'd learn how to drive a Honda Civic. Now, let's say RCE, a week from now, you're a cloud architect and you have to rent a Toyota or a Mercedes or an Audi. You don't know how to drive it because you trained it. But if you actually learned how to drive that car and you learned what a steering wheel was instead of some silly elastic vector directional changer name, and you knew this was called the key and this is how you start the car, and this is the accelerator and this is the brake, you could drive everything. So get AWS out of your head, get Azure out of your head, get Google out of your head, get Nutanix out of your head, get OpenStack out of your head, and learn cloud. Once you know cloud, you can work on all of them. And then, same thing as the person. Nobody wants an engineer to be an architect. They want an architect to be an architect, just like they don't want an architect to be an engineer, because believe me, neither one can do each other's jobs. So, transition. That means becoming a business executive. It means learning how to sell. It means learning how to get the information from the executive team. It involves becoming a great presenter. It involves developing the business acumen to learn how to improve a customer's business performance. And then it involves learning the network, data center, and cloud technologies. If you understand what server virtualization is, guess what? You know what a virtual machine is in every single cloud. If you understand block storage, it doesn't matter if it's a Nutanix cloud, an Azure cloud, an AWS cloud, a Google cloud, the Alibaba cloud, the Dell cloud. It's all the same. And you need that to learn. So build the networking, the data center technology. And also think about security. Let's say you wanted to be a cloud security architect. You won't be dealing with vulnerability management. You're going to be doing design. So vulnerability management, you're running scans, right? So let's think about the difference. A vulnerability management security engineer runs scans. Architects don't do that. They design the plan. How would you design the security policy for the organization? What should an incident response procedures look like for the organization? What do the demilitarized zones need to look like for the remote access versus the demilitarized zone for the web application versus a demilitarized zone for something else? What kind of encryption strategies are used? Does the storage need to be encrypted? Does the wide area network need to be encrypted? What kind of, for example, methodology do the servers need to be server hardened? Do we need endpoint protection? Do we disable unnecessary services, for example? Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. This is more security architecture versus security engineering, which is that vulnerability management sort of piece. So move it up a notch. Learn how all those kinds of things pull together to a cohesive strategy for a business. And that's when you're an architect. So don't be building, a bunch of hands-on projects of statically hosted websites in S3. That's great if you want to be a cloud admin, but it's terrible if you want to be an architect. Instead, build a design. How will artificial intelligence help an airline make better pricing decisions for their seats, for example, so they can sell out more seats on their airplane? How will artificial intelligence, for example, enable an airline to look at what's going on in the news and going on with oil drilling and going on with the supply chains of oil to determine whether they should buy their next 2 years oil contracts now or later, and how can we leverage artificial intelligence? How are you going to go convince the CEO to adopt your billion-dollar technology solution? What's your business case going to be? So please download that free book. Please attend our architect webinar, the free one, and we can talk face-to-face. But please, I hope you understand the difference, the massive difference between engineering, which is building, and architecture, which is designing. That's the key. You got to change your brand from engineer to architect, which means going from techie to executive. You need to learn deeply, how does this stuff work? How does symmetric encryption work versus asymmetric encryption? How does an internet key exchange work, or public key cryptography? How does it work? How does federated IAM work? What's going on with those tokens and those SAML links? How do we architect it to work better? And when you can start thinking about, how do I design it, present it, and sell it to convince the customer to go buy my stuff, that's what you're there. And why is it so important to be able to sell it? You know, your architect base salary is going to be low. It's going to be about $175, but you can earn another $100,000 a year or $200,000 in commissions if you're a really good architect. Now, if you can't sell your designs, you'll be terminated, you know, in the first 90 days. But if you can sell, you'll be earning hundreds of thousands of dollars more than the average architect. And that's why you'll see plenty of $500,000 plus architecture positions for people with good business acumen. So I want you to think of that. Think about, how do you solve a customer's business problem? And then you know what the architect is. And that's why we have so much time we spend on leadership, business acumen, sales skills, executive presence when we train our architects. In addition to network, data center, and cloud technology, so know how to design it on, lots of security. Because that's really the whole package. How does the tech work, not how do you build it? How do you leverage the tech to improve a customer's business performance? The tech that works for Alonzo wouldn't work for me, for example, because we have different lives. It's that kind of customization.
Right. So next one. When do you see the current job market improving for cloud DevOps positions? There are about 600 applications for each of these job openings.
Okay, LinkedIn user, we have to separate cloud and DevOps. For cloud architects, there's 1,000,001 open jobs, and I've got people getting hired every single day. Now, if you were in our audience about a year ago, we said we recommend getting out of cloud engineering, and we recommend getting out of DevOps jobs, and we recommended getting out of development jobs. And here's the reason why we said that. We said that the world was in a semi-global recession, even if it was an unofficial recession. And who gets hired during a recession? Revenue-generating people. Sales engineers bring in money, cloud architects are sales positions and bring in money. Engineering positions, by comparison, cost money. So think about that. Now, what can a business do with engineering positions? They can outsource it. The average house in San Francisco is $1.49 million. I'm not joking. Which means for the average person to own a home in San Francisco, they need to earn over $400,000 per year. Which means to get a mediocre programmer in California, you've got to pay several $100,000 per year. By comparison, you can hire a really good software developer in India for $30,000 a year. So in a bad economy, what do you think a business is going to do? They're going to terminate and lay off all the engineers, DevOps engineers, software engineers, cloud engineers they have in the US, and they're going to hire someone in India, Africa, Pakistan, Asia, someplace where they can get somebody really educated, really willing to work at a lower cost. Now, artificial intelligence and generative AI can do DevOps stuff. It can do software development. In 5 years, I don't think you see any software development jobs anymore, other than a small number of them. I don't see any DevOps engineers either, unless these DevOps engineers also have customer-facing skills and are super good at what they are. So there's no shortage of jobs you can get right now. There's 1,000,001 sales engineering jobs that are out there. There's 1,000,001 sales jobs, cloud sales jobs. There's 1,000,001 cloud architect jobs, and we've got students getting hired every day. But if you're in a world where you want to do the stuff that artificial intelligence can do, like DevOps, don't blame companies for laying off the people they have and leveraging artificial intelligence to do the job. Because why? The people that are working at their companies are screaming, give me raises or I go away. And the only way a company can give raises that it doesn't have money for is to get rid of some of its people. And who's it going to get rid of? The people that the artificial intelligence can do their jobs. So cloud is great right now, but I'd be very cautious with tech engineering jobs. Now, if you're going to be in engineering and you want a job, increase your business acumen, increase your sales, increase your executive presence, increase your communication, and then you're going to be in a position where no one can replace you, and they'll hire you under any circumstances in any economy. Let's go to Alonzo.
Couldn't agree more, Mike. Now, I need everyone to really understand this. Everyone talks about death and taxes. We always are going to have it. The same thing with technology, and especially cloud architects. Now, if my coworkers, my friends, and my colleagues always know I'm always looking at the latest and greatest salary projections on Glassdoor, but I'm also looking on LinkedIn, and I'm always finding more jobs, and there are people to fill them for cloud architects. So there's always going to be a need. Now, I looked at this, and I'm going to find this resource, and I'm still looking for it, but I know before the pandemic happened, there was a consistent 12% increase in cloud architect demand over the course of 5 to 6 years. Now, when the pandemic happened, it only decreased by 4%. So there was still a steady 8% increase in cloud architects out in the field. They need them because there's no way AI can compensate for nuance. The difference between a paragraph in poetry is how it's written, how it's passionately understood. And the same thing that can be applied with AI is that it will not be able to understand these nuances, how to build relationships, maintain relationships, or maybe even rebuild a relationship after conversations have broken down. Customer service has been damaged. How are you going to solve for that? You can't pull it up on ChatGPT because it doesn't have all of the factors needed on how it got to this breakdown in the first place. That requires someone with top-notch emotional intelligence, business acumen, CXO relevancy, soft skills, all of these things of how to read a room, how to know when to push forward or to pull back, how to change a conversation, any of these things that you are not going to be able to type in open source. So understand the need for that human component coupled with technological business transformative skills are always going to be in demand for now and the future to come.
Yeah, and the reverse of that is exactly true for these DevOps and these engineer roles. Supply and demand works both ways. The supply of people that can do these roles is, as you can see, 600 applications for each opening. I'm pretty sure that's a low number.
That's a very low number.
That is a very low.
There's usually about 5,000.
So many people. This is the result of decades of learn to code. Decades of people being told that they need to learn to code, that's where the future is going to be. Well, it's also the result of multiple vendors investing literally tens and hundreds of millions of dollars into training people to play games to do the job. So if they can gamify it and make it as easy as possible to do little tinkering and little things, the cost of that role is only going to decrease. But the number of people that know how to do it is going to increase. Mm-hmm. So you've got an increase in the number of people that can perform the job, and a decrease in the number of jobs that are needed. So an increase in supply, decrease in demand, cost is going to go down, and job openings are going to be what they are. I don't see that changing, especially with AI. AI did not help that situation at all. For those that desire a DevOps, a engineer, a software development, any of these very, very technical jobs. That's why Mike mentioned it several times previously today, and a lot of times before. If you're going to go for these jobs, you have to have the non-technical skills. You have to set yourself apart and make yourself the best DevOps engineer that there is. The best DevOps that can communicate whatever it is that you're doing. The best engineer, the best software developer, the absolute best, because there's so many, and AI is able to do so much of it now. So when do you see the current job market improving for cloud architects, and cloud engineers as subject matter experts and distinguished engineers? It's going to be good.
Yeah.
DevOps and more highly technical roles, I don't think I'll be seeing it improving.
I don't either.
So,
I think it's going to get worse for those hands-on tech only roles.
Yep. Something happened. There's a question. I see it on LinkedIn, but I don't see it on. It didn't come through on the on our streaming platform. So I'm going to read it out. I'm just going to. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it under. Oh, that's too many characters. That's why it didn't come through. Okay. All right. So I'm going to read it out. Hopefully, you guys can follow me with this. What career path would you recommend for someone to become a cloud engineer? I really enjoy the hands-on. I was a cloud administrator until the 30th when I got laid off. Currently, I'm looking at sysadmin jobs, but I know eventually I want to be an engineer after you explain the difference between architecture and engineering.
Okay, and that's a fair point. The reason people are getting laid off in sysadmin jobs is the same reason they're getting laid off in cloud engineering jobs. Keep that in the back of your mind. The tech can do the jobs better, faster, and cheaper than the people can. But if you really love cloud engineering, I would learn the following. I would learn the network and the data center. Not just how to build it, but how this stuff works. And that's really going to separate you as an engineer from the people that just know how to configure. If you truly understand BGP, you're valuable. If you truly understand WAN connectivity as a cloud engineer, you're valuable. If you truly understand how to tune a storage area network, you're valuable. So keep that in the back of your mind. Don't think in terms of how can I do the hands-on stuff so much. Think about the performance tuning, because an engineer that's employable does performance tuning. So how does Linux work? How does that Linux kernel work? What are the ways you could tune that Linux kernel? In a virtual machine, how could you pass the GPUs into the virtual machine to do some more machine learning things? So if I was going to be a cloud engineer, not an architect, but an engineer like you described, architects don't code. Cloud engineers need to have very strong automation skills, which means Python and Bash shell scripting. You may know some of that already. Architects don't use Terraform either, but guess what? You will need to be very good with infrastructure as code. CloudFormation scripts are nonsense, they're gone. We're in a world of multi-cloud, and that means tools that work in all clouds like Terraform. You also probably should have a good understanding of security, how firewalls work, how VPN concentrators work, how IDS, IPS systems work for this engineering role. For engineering, you need to get hands-on and build stuff. Build, and build some more for engineering. Because remember, engineering is about building. Architecture is about design. Now, I'm going to tell you this right now. You still should work on your communication skills, your business knowledge, your leadership skills, your executive presence. It's what I like to call the distinguished engineer. Now, I know a lot of distinguished engineers that earn $250,000 to $500,000 a year, but why are they different than everybody else? It's their communication skills. It's their leadership skills. It's their executive presence. I like to say celebrate your humanity. So if you want to be an engineer, get a lot of those businessy things that an architects do, because when the layoffs come, and they're coming for those engineers, just like they're coming for the sysadmins, they're not going to be coming for the people that can raise the energy on the team. They're not going to be coming for the people with good business problems or good leadership problems. The layoffs don't come for people that come from sales skills. They come from the people that are less liked by their manager. They come from people that are things like that. So build those businessy skills so you can differentiate yourself from the rest of the engineers out there, and then love your engineering career. I've got lots of friends that I coached into $300,000 and $400,000 engineering positions, and the secret was we gave them those business and leadership skills. And guess what? They never get laid off because they're impossible to find. They're what you call a unicorn. So build that and then build the engineering, but make sure you build that. Otherwise, generative AI can replace you, and you don't want to be replaceable by technology.
All right. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm fine. Go ahead, Chris, please.
There's a bit of delay on my end, apparently. I didn't realize it. All right. Do you still see companies hanging on to their on-prem data centers, especially where they just run their core business applications, example, ERP, and don't use technology to differentiate their business?
RH, I think you're making a very dangerous assumption that you can't do in the data center everything you can in the cloud, but better. So when you deal with RH with companies that really need the best tech to differentiate their business, they always have a data center. So let's say you're dealing with a bank, for example, where a nanosecond of latency can be $1 billion of sales difference over the years in trading. It's going to cost me 3,000 nanoseconds just to get to the cloud, where in the data center, I don't have that. Now, how about storage performance in the cloud? AWS is really, really fast, provision IOPS. And for the bargain price of, maybe what a car costs each month, you can get a $250,000 IOPS. In the data center, I can get a 19 million IOPS RAID card. It's not even comparable. Now let's talk about the security. In the data center, if I want to hire retired armed Navy SEALs with machine guns over my data center, I can do it. I can segment 2 servers in the same VLAN that can't even talk to each other. I can make it that Chris's computer, if it gets affected with a worm or a virus, can't spew more than a megabit a second of data and preserve my voice network and my video network. I can't do any of that stuff on the cloud. The cloud is an outsourced, virtualized version of the data center. And RH, all the cloud's data center is no different than any other banking data center. They just slap the cloud software on it and run it out to you. So a cloud is nothing more than a network in a data center that you're renting space in. So do you think you can build a better mansion or a hotel room? Which do you think is better? The cloud is a hotel room. The cloud provider is the hotel. That's it. Same stuff. Meet the new bus, same as the old bus. Same virtual machines, same servers, same storage area networks, generally speaking, bought from the same people with somebody else's label smacked on it. So, of course, organizations are going to have their data center. When you need max performance, you must use the data center. Now, of course, most organizations in today's world you're seeing what's called cloud repatriation. And what does that mean? It means people went to the cloud, it cost them too much money, and they got sluggish performance. So they're bringing their super high performance, highly used stuff back to the data center because it's cheaper. And then they're what's called bursting to the cloud. And then they're using multi-cloud. So the data center can never go away, ever. Because the data center is your local cloud. Now, what you're seeing is a much wider adoption of Nutanix clouds and OpenStack clouds, which gives me the ability to do the same auto scaling, the same software-based load balancing, and everything you do in the public cloud. Now, think about it. Got your data center. Now, let's imagine a hospital, RH. They stick all their stuff in AWS, and AWS has one of their outages for a Lambda function, or a power failure, or an impaired network. Maybe the networking routers and switches got drunk, because I don't know what that means, an impaired network, after being a network architect for 25 years. If the hospital had all their stuff in the cloud and no data center, when AWS has one of their outages or Azure has an outage, people are going to die in the hospital. You think that hospital can get rid of their data center? Not if they don't want people to die. So no. Do you think a bank can put all their assets in the cloud and not have a data center? No. JP Morgan Chase is the most technologically advanced business banking in the world. They save $2.2 billion a year by not using the public cloud, by building their own cloud. So yes, organizations that have huge advantages are going to be reaching out to NVIDIA and buying special artificial services and putting it in their own data center. And they're still going to use 2 and 3 clouds because each cloud provider offers some transformational experience that they can't do on their own. It's not an either or. It's like asking a football player, do you run sprints? Yeah. Do you train power? Yeah. Do you train strength? Yeah. Do you train mobility? Yeah. What? You mean you don't just play football? You have to train for these things? All businesses leverage the best tools. Chris or Alonzo, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so definitely I'll add in a little bit here. So do you still see companies hanging on to their on-prem data centers, especially where they just run their core business applications and don't use technology to differentiate their business? So if I'm not using technology to differentiate my business,
you're out of business.
right.
I wanted to make sure that I was looking at that correctly.
So let's just assume that I don't use technology to differentiate my business, then I'm doing everything on-prem. I'm not going to pay for some high-cost service off-prem if it's not to differentiate my business. Like, that's the one thing that I would pay more for, is the thing that's going to differentiate my business. Now, I'm not saying in this case I'm going to pay for cloud, but I will pay for that $5 million Super Bowl commercial to differentiate my business. Because it's going to so that's, let's go back to the fundamental concept of why businesses buy technology. Because they have to. Not because they
want to.
They don't want to spend any money on anything unless they have to. And that includes technology. So if I've got in my budget the ability to afford the capital expenses of an on-prem anything, then I'm going to do that.
Yes.
If I don't have that that budget for that capital expense, then I look at alternatives. And those alternatives might include a pure cloud solution, a multi-cloud solution, a hybrid cloud solution, a 98% on-prem and 2% on the cloud. Yeah. It's going to include whatever I need it to be.
Yeah.
And that on-prem could be at Joe's next door and not at my place. And then it becomes not just a multi-cloud, then it becomes a hybrid cloud and multi-prem. And it's so, like, there's so many ways.
There's a lot of layers to that. Man.
Right. There's so many layers to it. So this is you gave me a binary option. There's no binary options in this.
No, there is no gray area. I mean, you think about
it's all gray area. It's no black and white.
Well, yeah. There's no gray area to the black and white, rather. So you think about, like, okay, on-prem, are you doing, like, if you're doing pure, then are you just starting off as a new cloud? You're not able to afford this. You need the scalability to adapt. How are you different? I mean, I could go down this path. It is a big rabbit hole. I mean, I'm Alice.
That's what we're talking about tomorrow night. We can talk about this tomorrow night with our server versus serverless conversation.
Yes.
You
can join in, RH. That is going to be a perfect.
Sorry, I just realized that you opened up like a can of worms with
I mean, this whole statement is a can of worms. It's
that's why we do this.
Yeah. I think this is an interesting. I mean, this thing, we could spend the rest of our time talking about the different options, the opportunity costs of going through to this option against this option. Then why would we take this option? How is it going to affect us on the long term? This goes right down the alley of what cloud architects have to ask their clients about what's going to be good for them. Why is it not going to be good for them? And if they decide against your recommendations, is it documented? What's going to happen if they don't? What is the opportunity cost? Things of that nature. If you're going to do nothing but on-prem, have you considered disaster recovery? How is that going to affect you? How much is it going to cost you to somehow get RTO, RPO? Is there a threshold to how far you want to go? I'm just blah, 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 blah. We can just take it there. So
he says, sorry, I only have 200.
And the key is,
we only have so many minutes to talk about it. That's
why
we
do about another 2 zeros for that.
But the key to know is you can do some things better, faster, and cheaper in the data center, and other things better, faster, and cheaper in the cloud. And what makes an architect is knowing the difference.
Yes.
That's the difference between someone that's certified that says, ooh, it's got to go to the cloud. It's good. Well, maybe it's the worst thing you could do.
Yes.
And the cloud, they say, oh, it goes from CapEx to OpEx like it's a good thing. If an organization is flush with cash, it's a bad thing.
Right.
Because, the key is, what's the organization's weighted average cost of capital? And these are all those architect things that we teach that aren't covered in a certification. The certification is trying to brainwash you and to say, I got to use this fancy thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, and even if they do have the budget for the capital expense, I'm just going to use an example from me in hotels. So building a brand new hotel, you've got just literally like the desk in every single room, the chair in every single room, the mattress in every room, the bed in every room, everything in every room. And then you also have all the networking and all the technology and all the everything. There's opportunities to buy all the mattresses outright or finance them. There's opportunities to buy all the technology outright or finance them. Now, which ones will most hotels finance? They will do the technology, because guess what's going to happen in a year? They're going to upgrade their standards and their technology is going to be obsolete because just in a 5-year span.
Yeah, those horizontal and vertical scales.
It went from one access point every 20 rooms to one access point every 15 rooms to one access point every 10, one every 5, one every 4, now one per one. One access point for every room. And just so that's just, again, you take out that you have to go beyond the finance at that point, because they've got the money to do either one. They can do whichever one they want to.
Yeah.
But they're not going to outright buy the technology when the technology is going to be for their business model, for their business. It doesn't make sense for them to buy outright all this technology when they know that it's going to, in a year, that standard from Hilton corporate is going to change and they're going to have to do it all over again.
Yeah.
So that's just one example of like there's so many things that go into the decision process. Like I will buy outright as a hotel operator, I will buy outright mattresses and furniture all day long because I will get the shelf life out of them. I will before Hilton or Marriott makes me as a hotel operator replace them. But that technology, they're going to come in a year later and say out of date, which it is. I mean, so just that we could talk about this all day long because this is the basis of the entire basis of the job of an architect.
Yes.
So, so we've only got one question left. If you've got any questions, put them here in the chat box. Put them on LinkedIn. Put them wherever you see them. Our current last question. Do you still need to learn networking?
Yes.
I'm going to end that with, do you still need to learn networking to become a cloud architect? Because based off their previous questions, that's
networking and architecture is like breathing, but I'll let Mike, this is his forte. Go for it, Mike.
Let me give you an example. Let's say you just bought a brand new Ferrari, but there's no roads to drive it on. Is the Ferrari at all useful to you? No, there's no roads. If you don't know networking, every architecture you have will fall apart. 100% of them will fall apart. If you build a house on sand without a foundation, it's going to crash. So really that's the key, is we must understand the technology if we're going to design anything. Keep that. And even if you're a cloud engineer, if you don't understand networking, you don't understand how your servers are talking to each other. You don't understand how your server is talking to the storage. You don't understand how to make an access list, not break your network. You don't understand the routes to get your traffic from point A to point B, and everything falls apart. Now, as an architect doesn't need to code. They don't need to know how to build any of this stuff either. But if they don't understand the network, everything will fall apart. So the reality is there's no architecture career where you don't need to know networking. And also the reality is if you don't understand networking, even as an engineer, you're not going to be able to performance tune anything either. So effectively, you'll be ineffective. Chris,
go ahead, please, Mike. Yeah.
I know. Let's go to you, Alonzo, and I'll message this to Chris.
Okay. What one of the things and this is one of the dangers about relying solely on certifications, is that when I took the exams, there was always an answer that it was AWS related. And one of the dangers that I saw about it, it had nothing about networking. It was nothing specific, like say, for instance, border gateway protocol. There was nothing about interior, exterior, interior edge protocol. There was nothing about how these services were connecting, how they were really speaking in depth. It was always something about how AWS could provide that solution. So when you look at it from an agnostic perspective, it is super important that you understand networking above all. If you understand networking, everything else will fall into place. So it's just very important that you dig in deep on networking about how it works, how it connects, how it tunes, latencies, SD-WANs, LANs, open shortest pass first. I mean, I could go on, but this is not my forte. This is Mike's forte. But the fact that he spent a tremendous amount of time becoming a CCIE, spending a car's price worth of education to understand these things underscores why networking is so critical to you becoming a cloud architect.
All right. So I missed a question earlier. This question: what specific niche would you guys say is underrated, lacks enough technicians in, and would be great to invest our
networking? Networking.
Okay, so LinkedIn user, do you mean technician or do you mean architect or engineer? And there's a reason I'm asking that question. And I want to kind of, take a step back first. Anytime you're dealing with a technician, which is the hands-on junior person that just does some quick fixes, there's never going to be a shortage. There's always going to be an oversupply. And here's the reason. It's generally very easy to become a technician. And because it's so easy, there'll be a flood of people that are doing it because it's the quickest and easiest way to get someplace. So if you want to find what's that?
I was going to say, I know this person previously said that they were interested in becoming an architect at the beginning of the session.
So let's just understand that technician piece. Because it's the simplest place, it's always going to be surplus. Now, then we can define engineering versus architecture, which are completely opposite careers.
Sorry, that's why I'm waving over here. We can't do architecture and engineering.
Yeah, so we got to pick one. Yeah. Architecture is always in demand. If I put cloud architect back on my LinkedIn profile and I make a LinkedIn post, I will get 20 people per day that tried to hire me. If for fun I change it to cloud engineer, which I wouldn't do, I might get one a week to hire me. So architects are there. And why is it so hard to find an architect? Because so many people in tech want to get 1,000,001 certifications and they basically don't learn the business because the certifications don't teach the business. They don't teach the leadership. They don't teach the sales. They don't teach the communication. So guess what? Any architect job, there is a massive shortage of. Cloud architect, solutions architect, which is not as good of a job, but it's still there. AI architect, network architect, big data architect. There's millions and millions of architect jobs and nobody can fill them. Because while everybody else is doing projects where they're configuring stuff, they're not learning how to design anything. So architecture, there's always jobs. Engineering, AI can do most of these engineering jobs. AI can write software. You can use AI and build yourself a website in 3 days and not even know how to code. And then you could even use the AI to check the code, or you could pull the code from Git and use AI to even check it. So think about it this way. Surplus of cloud engineers, surplus of software engineers, surplus of DevOps engineers. So architecture careers in extremely short supply, and engineering careers, it's a surplus.
All right. So any last words before we wrap up? I'll let you guys think about that for a second, what your last words want to be.
Let me add a little bit to that last thing of why it's so hard to become an architect. Because most architects that earn $500,000 a year aren't willing to teach it. And it's really hard to find an architect that's got 25 years experience, that has the MBA, that has a $300,000 to $400,000 education to be able to teach architecture. And because of that, there's almost nobody that can teach it. And what do most people teach when they have an architecture boot camp? Engineering. And what happens when the people get done and they learn DevOps and coding and this? They're completely unemployable and they come to me and I retrain them. And I've retrained people from every boot camp out there. Daniel Bosa wasted $35,000 on a boot camp. I've got people that spent all this money because they were taught engineering. So that's the other reason is architecture. We're the only people out there teaching architecture right now. Everybody else is teaching engineering. And, when I was at Cisco, after my MBA, I took about $100,000 of leadership training, which they made me go to as an architect. How to better present to the CEO, how to close more deals, how to lead large teams. So whether you get that from me or you go get an MBA on your own, it's that level of business acumen and architecture and leadership skills that are really there. And we provide that for all of our students. And that's why our students get hired every single day with or without experience. So I recommend architecture careers because there's almost none of them out there. And they're so hard to hire. And that's why the cloud providers periodically send people to our classes, and the people that work for the cloud providers send people to our classes to try and recruit people, because it's near impossible to find an architect that can do the job. So keep that in the back of your mind. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to potentially.
You paused for a little bit, so I thought you were finished. All right. So while I'll let Mike and Alonso think of the last words that they're going to share with us, I just want to remind everybody that this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, we have our free information session on our Elite Cloud Architect training. This is our new Cloud Architect training that we're going to be starting next week. It's going to be a very small batch, intimate, small group. There's only a few spots left. So make sure, if you're interested in this, to register for this free session this Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, where we'll share all the information about it, and then we'll spend the rest of the time taking any and all questions that you might have, so that we can make sure we answer those for you and get you started and get your spot secured before it disappears. Mm-hmm. The next thing, I want to remind everybody about our free how to get your first cloud job, how to get your first cloud architect job guide that Mike has referenced multiple times. So if you're asking about where the link is, we just put the link for that session in the chat box on YouTube, and I'm going to put the link on LinkedIn in just a second while Mike and Alonso are speaking. So in addition to that, we've got that free how to get your first cloud architect job guide. We'll share that link as well. That's an ebook for you that's free for your use and free for your information. So I'll be sharing those links on LinkedIn here in just a second when Mike and Alonso share their last words. So thank y'all. I am done.
Why don't you go first, Alonso?
Okay, awesome. One thing that I really notice about everyone, I think everyone really is hesitant to ask questions, is because maybe they don't know what to ask, or maybe they feel that there's an unintelligible question that makes them feel less than capable of doing the job. Now, understand that everyone starts somewhere. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So please make sure you ask your questions. I just laid out, and my colleagues always know I'm checking Glassdoor for the latest and greatest in salary. So go right now, Glassdoor, which is a very respected resource, the current cloud architect position with no experience or any experience is $218,466. Now, we're always making sure that our clients are confident, capable, and ready to do the job. Now, imagine how this salary can change your life, can change your lifestyle, create generational wealth, and all these options that we all want for our families. Make the first step. Ask questions, no matter how silly you think it is or how rudimentary or pedestrian you think that question is. We want to get you on the path, and the shortest, most efficient one at that, to become a cloud architect. So we thank you for your time. We want you to always join us on these webinars, and we look forward to seeing you next time. On to you, Mike.
So as Alonso said, next webinar, please ask as many questions as possible. When I started my tech career, you know what I did? I found the VP and I asked him, what do you want in the perfect network architect? And you know what he told me? A list. And you know what I did? His list, and I was a principal architect within 2 years. They typically take 15 years for that role. And my career did this. And everybody else who asked their peers did this, because their peers didn't know how to get there. I asked the person that already made it there, and he told me what to do. And that's why I do this. You know, I just want to help you all get to your goals. I'm going to make it very clear to you. Any of you can be anything you desire. It doesn't matter about your background. Daniel Boso, I bring him up because he didn't even graduate high school, and we trained him and got him a job at JPMorgan Chase. No excuses for anybody. If you want it, you could dream it. Jermaine was selling landscaping gear, and now he's an enterprise architect, and he's awesome. Vladimir was a kid. Coyote was a college student who's over at AWS. It just doesn't matter. Any of you can get any job you absolutely desire, and as long as you're properly prepared for it. So go after your dreams. Whether it's an architect, great. You want to be an airplane pilot, great. You want to be a gymnast, great. Just pursue your dreams. At the end of the day, we have one life, and I want you to live it to its fullest. About 20 years ago, I found that getting people hired and promoted was the most fun thing in the world to me. And that's why I do this. I get distinguished architect and principal architect job offers every single day of the week. But I love watching people get hired. To me, it's the best feeling in the world. So, Chris says he's got an important question that we need to get to. Let me address that question. Addie, would you advise I start with cloud engineering before going to cloud architecture? No. So here's what you're really asking me, Addie Tsunami. Should you learn how to be an airplane mechanic before you learn how to be an airplane pilot? It's the same thing. Or should you become a nurse before you become a doctor? No, they're completely unrelated careers. Now, Adi Sanami, let me tell you this. I have people that have been cloud engineers for 10 years, and I have to completely retrain them to be an architect. And I'd say a third of my students are cloud engineers that want to become architects. A third of my students never worked in tech before, and a third of my students come from various tech backgrounds. Who do you think gets hired first? They all get out the same time, because there's almost no relation to what an engineer does and what an architect does. So it's learning somebody else's job. So if you don't think learning how to be an airplane mechanic will teach you how to fly an airplane, you're right. If you don't think being a nurse will keep you from having to go to medical school to learn the same skills to be a doctor, you'd be wrong, because they have to go to medical school the same way. And that's why pharmacists, nurses, physicians, physical therapists all get different educations, because just because they say cloud doesn't mean they have anything to do with each other. One's a design, present, and sell, and one's a building career. Do you know who they never hire to be building architects? Construction workers, unless they go to college and take an architecture degree. But 99% of those architects designing hotels, buildings, and shopping malls, guess what? They never worked as a construction worker because they learned how to be an architect. So that's one of the things that I really want you to understand. Keep these things separate. Train your job, not somebody else's. Learning how to play golf does not make you a better football player. It makes you a better golfer. Playing football and getting a good football coach makes you a better football player. So be what you desire to be. Go after your dreams. Get the right education. You can do admin work with training, but architecture work needs education and professional development because it's at a different level. Build a plan. Get help building your plan from experts in the field, and never quit until you get to your goals. Never quit. And I'm also going to share another secret. Don't tell your friends your dreams. They're just going to give you a million reasons why you can't. 13 doctors told me I'd never walk again after a martial arts injury. I told all 13 of them they were crazy. I don't walk far, but I'm able to sit here with you. And I walked up and down the stairs in my house to get here today. So guess what? You can do anything you desire. When I practiced internal medicine, told everybody I was going to be a network engineer. You can't do that. You don't have any degrees in tech. You got to go be a network admin or help desk. I said, no, you're crazy. Guess what? 6 months later, I was a senior network engineer as my first job. A couple months later, I was a lead architect designing systems for banks on Wall Street. Lead architect. You can all do it too. Go after your dreams. Attack it with energy, enthusiasm, passion, and love, and you can do anything. Thank you for coming today. It was an honor to spend some time with you. I truly want to help every last one of you build your best careers and lives. Take care.
All right. Thank you. See everybody on Thursday.
Take care.
Oh, actually, no. We'll see you tomorrow night. I forgot. We're back with Head in the Clouds. It's been so long.
Yeah, we're going to have a fun show tomorrow night.
Cloud show. Oh, it's been almost a month. All right. Join us tomorrow night for Head in the Clouds, where we're going to talk about server versus serverless. It's going to be a great discussion. I'm really excited about it. And we'll keep answering that question from RH that we love so much today. So see all of you tomorrow night.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.